This is going to be a little bit in reverse. We're doing the intro for this video at the end of the night. That is because we got so swept up with how much fun we were having with my friend Chef Shubert in Edmonds for this episode of Why Seattle. When did you discover that you loved cooking specifically? And is it just cooking or is it creating experience?
The cooking part was when I was 7, and my mom taught me how to scramble eggs on the stove. And that was it. I was sold. And I think the first time I scrambled eggs by myself on the stove when my mom wasn't there, I was so curious. I touched the red hot element on the stove. I'm like, I wonder what that feels like. And I burned my finger, of course. But even after that, I was sold. I wanted to cook always. And through the years, and because my family's very food involved, and so is my wife's, we all love food, and I just continued with that.
What point did you start experimenting, making meals, really knowing that this is not just what you wanted to do, but also you had a talent for it?
Well, let's just say when you're 10 years old at home by yourself, there's not a lot in the pantry you can really cook by yourself, except for top ramen.
Okay.
And I would say my first...
Don't knock it.
Exactly. It's a staple for many people.
Right.
And that is why I started, throwing garlic powder and soy sauce and herbs and other things, throwing some eggs in there and maybe some tofu. And that was it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I can make myself dinner and it could taste good. And a lot of times it didn't taste good.
Sure.
Trial and error.
Yep.
And luckily, top ramen is cheap.
Out of all your years in education, culinary school, how many years did you spend studying? And why did you keep studying? Why didn't you branch off and just do your own thing when you knew you could?
Well, so I didn't go to culinary school until my second year of junior college because I could not pass that Calculus 2 class to become an engineer. So I went to an advisor and I said, hey, there's no way I'm becoming an engineer. I just failed Calculus 2 twice. What should I do? And she just asked the right question. What do you like to do?
Yeah.
What do you love to do? I said, I love to cook. And so she sent me over to the right place. And I did a 1.5 year culinary program at the sister college. And that was it. But I had plenty of experience cooking and serving in restaurants. And then I knew this is what I wanted to do afterwards. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Look at this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, chef, what do we have here?
So we have our famous hot lobster roll, just simply basted in butter. And then we have our local Dungeness crab roll.
Yep.
And these are both on Macrina rolls, which is in Seattle.
Yep.
And then we have our famous fish tacos. They're fried rock fish from the Washington coast with the mango salsa, tortilla cheese, and our signature green sauce.
This is incredible. So I'm seeing kind of what you were talking about with all of the different culinary worlds that you've been exposed to come to life here.
Absolutely. And this unit was very special to us. It's not like anything else we've ever done, nor were lobster rolls very popular until most recent through the pandemic. But we just knew that Edmonds needed a seafood place that was super approachable and easy to eat and out of a really cool street side window. And this is it.
Of the surroundings, has Edmonds or the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle area inspired your menu, how you approach business, all of that?
Oh yeah. I grew up in the Bay Area, but moved here after college, after culinary school, and started discovering the food scene, the people, and I would have to say Seattle's got its own subculture of people and food, for sure.
Oh yeah.
The Great Pacific Northwest offers an immense amount of seafood, plenty of produce, and great farms in Central Washington. Yeah. And so it's really benefited my career to be in this locale where everything's so fresh, everything's so close by, and sometimes on these dark and gloomy days, you brew the best beer you've ever brewed, and that's why the beer is better here.
Interesting.
Or you've made just the most delightful comfort food ever because you needed that during these dark and gloomy days.
Could not agree more. Totally on board with that.
But on the flip side, everything here is so healthy in the Pacific Northwest because we're outside whenever it's sunny. We're always doing something active. And maybe that's the time you've ever grilled your best steak or grilled your best fish. And so that freshness really transcends into the cuisine here in general. The lobster roll, well, let's just start with this restaurant. We had 15 seats inside, a couple tables outside. There was no deck. And it was meant to be a small, tiny restaurant that you could get a couple bites and go down to the beach. We knew it was going to be slow. We knew it was going to generate very much income, and that it was a passion project for us prior to the pandemic. Come 2020, March of 2020, every restaurant was shut down, and people were wanting to have fine food, but they couldn't access it by going into restaurants and steak and seafood houses. There was no way they were going to survive just doing takeout. A lot of that stuff didn't hold.
Right.
And so that's when our lobster roll went from selling 20 a day to 200 a day. And it was this TikTok sensational video that took it, to 1 million views in just a few days' time. And I would have to say that this slowest performing unit that was before 2020 became the savior of our business.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Accidental foresight.
And you opened a restaurant in the pandemic.
Fire and the Feast next door was the first restaurant that I worked at. It wasn't Fire and the Feast at the time, but it was the place and the first restaurant I worked at when I first started working in Edmonds and getting to know the community.
Yeah.
And a lot of my foundation has always been Italian food, and I always wanted to open an Italian restaurant on my own at some point. And that was it. That was the solution to my itch that I had to scratch.
Love it.
Unlucky for us, in Thanksgiving week of 2020, they had just closed all inside dining again, and that was our opening week. And so instead of hosting diners at 50% capacity inside, we sold pizzas out the window. We sold over 150 pizzas that first night that we opened.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Let's go check it out.
Okay.
So does this represent a passion project or a passion that you've already had specifically about the style of cooking?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I've done very little cooking in the last few years. I've managed the business more so. And so a lot of the starting process of these menus begin with me and my team, and then eventually evolves into the chef's vision.
Yeah.
So we always tell them what we want, we have them taste the food, and then we let them have artistic freedom.
So tell us about coming up to Edmonds. Who introduced you to Edmonds, and tell us all about that.
Edmonds is where my wife has some family, and we couldn't afford to buy a house in Seattle once we got married, so we ended up looking at Edmonds, and it was way more affordable but very sleepy. And a lot of families are moving into town, finding that this place is a very great place to raise your kids.
Yep.
And we really focus our menus to be approachable too to families, to make sure that kids' menu is awesome.
Yep.
Because if the kid is not going to enjoy or behave at the dinner table, you're not bringing your kid to dinner.
Yeah, or anybody else for that matter, really.
Yeah. Both my business partner and I, we both had 2 kids when we opened our first and second restaurants, Bar Dojo and Salt and Iron.
Yeah.
And we knew that, it was so hard to take them out to eat.
Yeah.
And we really enjoy going to restaurants, so had to make it approachable for the community.
It's amazing.
This is our pepperoni Calabrian hot honey pizza with roasted garlic, red onions, Parmesan cheese, and some mozzarella. It's one of my favorite pizzas.
My gosh, that is gorgeous.
Hot pepperoni pizza. And then we have our prosciutto burrata. And this really is a simple dish that features just a few ingredients, some hazelnuts and yellow raisins, and then sliced focaccia.
Awesome. Beautiful.
It's all about the ingredients. Italian food is very simple, and it's very easily made as long as you know what ingredients to use.
And I hear you got a little bit of a steak restaurant for us. Tell us a little about that, the history of it, and where we're going.
Salt and Iron used to be a cupcake shop. Downtown Edmonds didn't have an oyster and steakhouse, nothing even close to it, and so we decided when that place came to be that we wanted to open that kind of place. Let me get a bag. Where is this in my entire life? I've never had that. Asian fusion place. We'll just do a dozen chef's choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dozen oysters, salt and in New York.
Medium.
Salt and Iron, what inspired that name?
Well, we knew we wanted to open a oyster and steakhouse, and downtown Edmonds hadn't had one yet. And so we kind of listed a bunch of things on a list for synonyms. And so we had steak and we had oysters. And so steak, there was a bunch of names, but one of them was salt. I mean iron, I'm sorry, for the grill, iron.
Yeah.
And then we had oysters, and that was, salt was under the oyster section.
Makes sense.
But we came to iron and salt first, and we're like, nah, that's not gonna work. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't have a ring to it. And so we threw that out for like a couple weeks and couldn't come up with another name really to fit the bill. And then I'm like, wait, let's just switch the oysters and steak, and it became Salt and Iron, and that was it. We knew that was the name.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it rolls off the tongue well.
Yes.
Sounds
And
good.
it easily
Number.
explains what we're gonna serve here.
Yeah.
Something from the sea and something on the grill. And here come the oysters, by the way.
All right.
All right.
Look at this.
So we've got your Shubert Ho over here,
Okay.
that bastard right there, Kumamoto, and Kushi, a little red wine vinegar mignonette in the middle.
Nice.
Anything else for you right now?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So these oysters are from Taylor Shellfish. We partner with them exclusively. They're so fresh. They're delivered every day of the week for us, or every other day sometimes. And they're harvested the day before they come to our restaurant. This is as fresh as it gets without going to Taylor Shellfish. And they deliver from Chuckanut, to us.
incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Delicious.
So we have the salt portion of the menu right here.
Right, the salt portion of the menu with our iced mignonette.
All
Enjoy.
right.
Yeah.
Show us the
Okay.
appropriate way to
So I just take a little bit of that.
Yep.
And I throw it in the oyster.
Yep. And this is a shigoku.
Shigoku. Yep. And then down it goes.
All right. Here we go. No lemon?
I alternate, right?
Okay.
Just to taste the oyster differently.
Yeah. That mignonette is awesome.
It's clean,
As is the oyster.
Right?
Very clean.
really adds to it.
That's what we've got here.
Okay, so we have our Salt and Iron special, and it includes some seafood. We have some grilled shrimp here, and our prime New York steak, some mashed potatoes and asparagus. Everything on here is very simple. We add a salsa verde, or a chimichurri rather, onto our steak. Different from most steakhouses. We like the fresh herbaceous aspect to it.
Yeah.
But this is our signature steak dish. It has a little bit of everything, and it'll definitely fill you up.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
It's the best way
Steak
to just
knife.
go for it.
You just go for it.
Let's go for it. All right. Oh, that is beautiful. Cooked medium.
Nice and tender. Yeah, really flavorful. But back to the story of this place, it's like half of this restaurant was open for 3 months before we opened the other half, because that other half was a butcher shop that went out of business.
Oh, yeah.
And the landlord had said, okay, well, do you want it? I'm like, we have barely even opened up this side. I can't imagine spending another few $100,000 building that place up and connecting the two. And I decided we had to take the chance because it was such a great corner spot location. And from the first day that we opened these doors, because this type of restaurant was never really in Edmonds, we had a line out the door and full tables for the first 6 months of opening.